It's my great pleasure to have with me today Cecile Blilious of Pitango. Cecile, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and your company?
Of course. First of all, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me, David, to take part in this important initiative. So I'm the head of impact and sustainability for Pitango Venture Capital. Pitango is Israel's largest venture capital fund with about $2.5 billion under management, has been active for more than 25 years, one of the oldest funds in Israel. And so it's a series, obviously, of funds, consecutive funds. We have investments across several active funds, early stage, growth stage, and healthcare. So we have a healthcare dedicated fund. And we've recently decided to integrate impact metrics, ESG, and the sustainable development goals into our investment thesis. So actually Pitango is, I think, the first venture capital fund, which is a mainstream VC around the world, to integrate and adapt the world of impact and sustainability into its mainstream business.
That's very exciting. I was actually attending a seminar yesterday on impact investing and how to do the kind of metrics around regular returns, but also measuring impact and looking at that. And I'm a big fan of the Israeli VC market. You have the highest per capita venture investment in the world, far ahead of anyone else. So I think we can learn a lot from how you do things there. Can you talk a little bit about the nature of the ecosystem in Israel and what it's like as a woman in the field?
Of course. So, like you said, Israel is a very entrepreneurial state. It's something to do with the DNA of the Israelis of having the ability to take risks and not be afraid to fail, which is part of success, as we all know, with a very positive attitude towards failure as part of growth. Israel is a 9 million people, roughly, state, with 6,600 startups in existence at any given moment. And usually we add something like 1,300 new startups every year. So per capita, like you said, it's probably the biggest or the highest ratio of entrepreneurship. There are accelerators. I can't even tell you how many. I like to say that under every tree, there's an accelerator here in this country. And it's definitely something that is very technology driven. There's a lot to do with the army service here. The military has a very strong technology unit, which helps young people really understand deep tech very well and then go out into the market and set up their own companies or join these companies. We have about 400 multinational companies in Israel, which are all either scouting for opportunities to purchase or are integrating their products or local products into their own products from Microsoft, Google, Apple, etc., and all the way to smaller startups from around the world. So it's generally a very welcoming ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Having said that, and having been in this market for quite a long time, it's not a very welcoming platform or ecosystem for women. And I think it's the same for every other country. We're not unique in that respect. We are unique in the fact that if you look at even the military units, the technology units, you find a very high percentage of women there, but somehow they drop when they get to the market, and they drop even further as time goes by, and they need to go up in the management ladder, and somehow it just doesn't happen. So personally speaking, for many years, I was the only woman in the room. I was an entrepreneur and I founded companies and I sat on boards, and for much of my career, I was the only woman. And it really has been a challenge, which I think we haven't done enough to change. I think we're doing quite a lot, but there's always more that can be done. it seems like it's changing. I think the needle is moving, definitely not fast enough. And I would definitely like to do something more to get more women on the entrepreneurial side, on the investor side, on the asset owner side, just more women in the game.
So what kinds of things do you see that are driving this change? What kinds of things are working to bring more women in as founders or investors?
So I think it's a matter of short, mid, and long-term influence or strategy.
Mm-hmm.
In the short term, it's very, very important to create a welcoming atmosphere for women to step in, which means that when a woman wants to be an entrepreneur, it's always tougher for her to get funded. It's always tougher for her to find the right partners to build the product. There's been a research done in the US about the language that is being used in boardrooms when female founders are presenting their startups as opposed to male founders, where with women investors speak about the risks, and with men investors speak about the opportunities. So there's something about that. So first of all, we need to create the atmosphere, and that's a short term. It means which language do we use? How many women are in the room when a woman founder presents? What is the dynamics that happens before the meeting starts and after it ends? What is the way that women present, and how do investors accept that not being exactly the same way that they might present a startup? So that's one very important thing that we need to do. Second, we need to build much more accelerators and incubators where women are welcome, not just by merit of being women, but just by merit of being good entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And get the right tools that will make them succeed and stand out. That also given the fact that they are at a disadvantage. So we need to give them extra tools that maybe male founders don't necessarily need. So that is happening also. Another important thing is, like you say, you can't be what you can't see, right? So it's critical that successful women that are investors and long-time entrepreneurs or women that have succeeded in managerial roles come forward, and I agree it's outside of our comfort zone, certainly for me, and talk about their experiences honestly in an open way that doesn't just talk about the success, because it's not just about success, and talk about the challenges of childcare and family life and work-life balance or work-life integration and things that people care about. Men care about them too, obviously, but somehow the burden is much more on women.
Sure.
So being a role model is very important. Next to that, I think midterm, we need to create sort of mentorship programs for women to accompany founders and investors. And those can be male founders and investors, of course. And those should be approachable and accessible for women that are either still students or just got out of their military service here, or even girls at school, at high school, where they have all kinds of entrepreneurship programs where they're really doing their own ideas and bringing those to life, but that's where it ends. So if we could somehow bring them to see what the industry is comprised of and what is a day in the life of a startup or a day in the life of an investor or a board member, that would, I think, really help a lot. And it's done, but again, not enough. There are things, minor things, like the way you write a job description. So Hebrew is a language that has gender in it.
Right.
And all the job ads are all written in male gender. And they usually have 50 categories that you have to match. And research shows that a woman that doesn't fit at least 80% of the categories will not even apply.
Right.
And a man that fits 30% of those will apply gladly.
Sure.
So you probably need to just rewrite the way that you're trying to attract women or attract talent. Another thing is that a lot of people believe that if you're not in tech, then you have no space in the high-tech sector. But that's not true. People that are doing the tech part of the industry are maybe 30, 40%. All the rest are a lot of other people that do different things, from marketing, sales, project development, customer success, finance, anything. There's so many things that are out there that have nothing to do with tech. So why can't these jobs be also taken by women? And last but not least, we have to provide many more opportunities for young women to be educated in STEM education, in seeing that as part of how they manifest themselves, and not be seen as like unattractive to boys or things that are pushing them away from these particular topics. So I think STEM education is also critical.
And as you've seen these shifts in the Israeli market and the advent of some accelerators or resources allocated towards women, what kinds of things have been the most effective in your eyes, and what kinds of things would you recommend if another ecosystem was looking to try to establish similar programs?
So first of all, I think there must be many more communities for women entrepreneurs and women founders. In Israel, we have a community that is over 5,000 people member, called Yazamiot, which means women founders in Hebrew. Right. And this is a very good ecosystem for women to find partners, to ask questions, to participate in competitions. There's events all the time. There's very clear.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And she's amazing. She really does bring people together, and
she's another
become
speaker
very accessible
at this conference, actually. So
amazing.
Yeah.
So she'll tell you all about it. So I think this is very successful and should be really replicated and scaled. Another thing that works, I think, is having more women educated to be in VCs. And cross the line sometimes from being an entrepreneur to being a venture capitalist, right, or just grow into that space. And we must include many more women into this space, be it by bringing them on board as analysts just to begin, but also to try to bring them on as venture partners and senior positions that will be in the room. Just being in the room will change the perspective, the way that investments are being screened, and there'll be more voices around the table and more diverse ways of looking at startups and their products. So
are there changes that you're making to how you look at recruiting? One of the things that I think will be a theme of the conference is this really a pipeline problem, or is this a network problem, or what is the way to do outreach to bring more people into the space?
I think it's both.
Yeah,
I think it's both. We have a pipeline problem because, again, if there's no encouragement of women to go into entrepreneurship, then there are less women out there by definition, right, which doesn't make really sense. But you know, if you think about it, we're more than half of the population.
Right.
But you know, if the job market doesn't tweak itself to fit the needs of young women who are obviously in the years where they're going to get married and have children, then women will always be left behind. And you know, I'm the proud mother of 4 daughters, and I've never stopped my career because I had a baby.
Right.
Even one of the companies that I managed, I had a nursing baby with me, and she was with me in the office for 3 months. So right, it's not impossible. And I'm not saying that this is what everybody should do. This is what fit me. But right, the job market should be able to understand that women having children is not the end of the world. They're not becoming stupid just because of that. They're just right, becoming better.
Right.
And show me a mother that can't manage an operation. I mean,
Sure.
seriously, the
Sure.
most complex operation you can manage is your children and your family.
Parenthood is a lesson in multitasking for sure.
Absolutely. So I think the job market really needs to be more welcoming and accepting, and we really should, as investors, also look at young women and encourage them, knowing that there will be ups and downs and all kinds of periods in their lives where they might be less available, but that's fine. It's really a matter of how it's perception, and the risk that investors seem to see in that is just a perceived risk, because women will work much harder, will be much more available, and will strive to succeed much more just to spike everybody to prove them wrong.
Right, right. So talk a little bit about your experiences as a board member and a board observer in startups, and what that's been like. And if you see, there's certainly initiatives in some EU countries, and California recently passed legislation looking to encourage more women participating on boards. What does that look like in your market?
So first of all, I think it's becoming more and more common, which is really great.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I was for many years the only woman in the room, but having been an entrepreneur myself, it was very easy for me to connect with the pains and the challenges that the CEO was facing, and always remember that eventually whatever we decide in this room, this person will have to execute on it. I think I got a lot of respect from my fellow board members, and even though in the beginning of my career I tended to be a little bit more shy and listen more than speaking, I got much more confidence just by sitting with people that I appreciated, and by the way, also learning from people who I didn't appreciate, and just seeing what they did and do maybe the opposite. So I learned a lot just by sitting in those boardrooms. Also because people are very professional here. I mean, they're really top-notch people. In all the boards that I sat, they were all excellent people. Mm-hmm. And I was very happy to be able to contribute something that they didn't have. So for the past almost 20 years, I've been doing impact investing, and that's something that, unfortunately, this knowledge is just not common knowledge. And the perspective that I bring to the table that looks at the social or environmental sides of a product or a business model, and the opportunities that brings, and the way that it reframes how you see your targets, and understands your stakeholder better, and understands your KPIs in a much clearer, I would say, crystallized way, I think really brings value to everyone around the table. And I really got a lot of recognition for that, which I'm really grateful for. I think it was a tremendous learning experience. I mean, it was like really a university for me. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really like the tempo of startups, and how they look at their challenges and take decisions. And even though sometimes decisions are tough, but you always do it as professionally as you can. And I think the female perspective in the room is also very important, also in tough times. Think about laying off people, or restructuring the company, or restructuring the business, which has an implication on the employees and how the company is acting by itself. It's very important to bring that perspective as well. So I was very lucky, I think, to be able to do that.
Can you talk a little bit about, as you've taken this leadership role built on your experience in impact investing, the intersection of impact investing and diversity and inclusion initiatives, because impact can be a lot of different kinds of social change?
Of course. So I am looking very wide and deep into the impact space, but definitely one of my favorite topics is gender and diversity and inclusion. I'm a member personally of quite a lot of groups, and I do quite a lot of activities that are related to supporting women founders and women in VC around the world, not only in Israel. And I'm very proud to try to bring this to the mainstream. Just as an example here, in Pitango, we just appointed our third woman partner in the healthcare fund, which is really amazing. These are 3 young women who are partners in Pitango, and I think it's really great. And Pitango in the past has had quite a few women partners, which is says something about them as well. You know, thinking about, for example, gender lens investing, or about sort of affirmative action in that direction, that hasn't taken off in Israel, and I don't know if it should. I mean, there's the I don't know if you're familiar with the $1 billion initiative, which signs up VCs that are committing to invest part of the capital into women founders. Yep. So I think this is a very good way of looking at this, saying, look, you're going to be investing across the board. Take a known commitment to invest at least part of your capital in women founders. And that brings the idea to the awareness of the partners. And when they're aware of it, they start searching for it. So when you search for it, then you uncover all kinds of deal flow that you never knew existed.
So top of mind. Yeah.
Yes. And also it doesn't feel to the founder and to the investor like they did it because she's a woman.
Right.
It's really by merit. They really do invest because it's a great company and they believe in the founder and they believe in the business and in the market and the solution. And they think it's going to make a lot of money. Otherwise, they wouldn't invest. So it shouldn't be labeled as something that might be perceived as something that is done out of the ordinary just because they want to be, yes, so kind of a lip service. And Israel is quite a small ecosystem in that respect. And I feel that it's better to try to include as many women founders and women investors in the mainstream funds rather than specifically invest as a gender initiative. I do think we need to put an emphasis on bringing more women founders to mainstream VCs so that they have that cohort of investees that they can review and choose from. But that hasn't taken off in Israel yet, not as gender lens specific.
Okay. So I'm going to just close here with, if you were going to give one piece of advice to improve diversity and inclusion to investors, what would it be? And one piece of advice to founders, what would it be?
So to investors, I would say, try to recognize the bias that you have, which in many cases is unintended, and try to overcome this and just give a fair assessment and fair chance to female founders, and try to get a woman in the room when the founder is presenting, at least for the first time, even if it's somebody from the one of the associates or somebody who does the research, whatever. Right. Another woman in the room will change the dynamics, and try to be as open-minded as you can, because you will see things that you're not used to seeing, and you'll see a different kind of stamina or different kind of management style that might not be yours, but it might be even as good as yours or better. So that's very important. To founders, I say, first of all, be aware of the fact that we're all people. And when you come to present to a VC, remember that these are people who are fathers and husbands and sons of women, and are just, people. So when you come in, I see a dynamic that I dislike. For example, when male founders come into the office, from the moment they step in through the door until the moment they start presenting, which can take 10 to 15 minutes, they set up the computer and they do the presentation. There's a chit chat going on, where did you go to the army? Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't happen so much with women. And it's awkward. Also because the investors are a little bit awkward and they're a little bit afraid of saying something which might be misplaced or misunderstood. So I say to women, just act like you're at home, okay? Speak to these people, speak to them. They're people. Just try to engage with them in conversation that will put everybody in a comfortable position when you start pitching. don't just like be quiet for the first 10 minutes and then start your pitch. You need to create this physical, not physical in that sense, but like you're in the same room, right? So you need to have this connection. Two, be yourself. Don't try to imitate any kind of male behavior.
Right.
If it's not yours, if it's how you behave, that's yours. But just be you, be you. And really try to excel in what you know that they might not know, just because you're different. And if you're building a product that you certainly understand about and the market that you certainly understand about, be confident about telling them that.
Yeah, own it like
even if they don't agree with you. And even if they talk about the threats, go back to talking about the opportunities. They talk to you about what will happen if you have children. To go back to talking about how hard you'll be working, how amazing you'll be at capturing the market, how great you'll be at building the team, how you believe that your customers are going to be 100% engaged and will stay loyal to you for a long time, and how you'll build a very resilient and strong business. Keep going back to the positive. Don't go into answering questions about the risks. Instead, turn the risks into opportunities.
Fantastic. Cecile, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope that we'll get many, many more women founders and many more women investors and women who own the capital to invest much more in women.
I think the tide is rising.
Yes, I believe so.